In today's Soulful Sharing, we have Mariam Karim Ahlawat, who's a novelist, playwright, children's writer, and a teacher of French literature and language. So welcome, Mariam. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Vibha. It's wonderful to be here with you.
And I want to hear everything from you, from your children's workshop to your novels, because it was such a beautiful thing when I heard that you've been holding children's workshop for the last 25 years.
That's true.
Yeah, and how you bring out their creativity and their creative self in paper and with that workshop, in that workshop, and through that, how you bring out their best self, right?
Well, I try to.
Yeah, and with the adults
it's a lot
also.
Of fun. Yes.
Yeah. So let's know more about this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We all have this desire some other time in our lives when we feel that we want to pen down our thoughts and we want to write something, probably a book on our lives or something we really like to mention it to others and leave it behind. With Mariam, she has written 22 books, children's books, novels, playwrights, and so many other different genres. I would like to ask you, Mariam, over here, what was that first book? What led you, or what encouraged you, or what inspired you to put your words on paper and get it published?
Actually, I always wrote stories. Even as a small child, I wrote poems and all, and stories. I published my first story when I was 17 years old.
Oh, lovely.
But then I didn't take it seriously because I was a teacher. I was went into academics, and I didn't think anybody would be that interested, or I could be that brilliant. It never occurred to me that I could do something. But then what happened was, after I got married and I left my profession as a teacher of language and literature, I thought I have to do something which I can do. So there were a lot of stories which used to be told to us when we were children. So I wrote a book called Tales Old and New, which was published by HarperCollins.
Wow.
And the Indus Peacock imprint.
And that was the first book?
That was the first book. So there were 5 stories which came down by word of mouth in our family, which were told, So I translated them into English. And then I wrote them. And 5 stories were actually women's issues in the guise of fairy tales.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So yeah, now of course it's out of print, and it was illustrated by a friend of mine who's quite a well-known artist, and she was kind enough to illustrate it for me, Kavita Jaiswal.
Mm-hmm. So when you say that it was in the fairy tales form, is something that was the beginning of getting connected to that dream world of the children, which actually led you towards that children's workshops and giving them that a vision to create and to be connected to their creative side?
No, I think I always did that because I had younger cousins and my younger sister, and they were the first people I practiced my storytelling on. So I used to tell stories. My father was a great storyteller. He would tell stories with all of the jungles. He was very fond of the jungles, with all the sound effects of the tiger and the cheetal. Wow. And so that was, I think I just took on that thing of storytelling. In our families, they tell a lot of stories, to children.
Yeah, I know that in the reviews also they say that, it's so imagery, and they love the whole cinematic effect, what you give, the 360-degree view, right, of the horizon in your stories. And especially the novel which you have it, I mean, it's something like, because I heard that she was saying that life is audio-visual, and so why not write it that way? So when you take the workshops of the children, what is it that you bring out the best?
Not just the children, it's also of grown-ups, because there's sound in life. There is sound, there are the visuals, there are, the colors, and everything that is there that you see, that you put into the story. So that other people also are able to, experience the same thing that you are seeing. So it's like introducing somebody to your world and the way that you look at things, and it's a lot of fun. And kids love it, and adults also, grown-ups also seem to, when you start. Well, actually, writing a book and writing cinema is not that different, Because when a person writes a story, they visualize it. It's just that it's in another genre. And cinema is written with all the inputs because it has a technical technology to be able to do that. While when you write a book, you leave it to the reader to actually create those images in their mind. But then you have to give them some inputs for that.
So your workshops are really sought after, and you have been offering these workshops by invite only. And now you thought that you have to do it your way. Right? Is that so?
Yeah, I wanted to start out on my own actually, because I realized I have something, to nurture people's talent, and I enjoy doing that. And I find that, that the thing is that creativity, the creative impulse lies very deep within you. And what happens is that as you grow up in society, you become somebody that is expected of you to become. And but then you lose that person inside you sometimes, not always, who actually is the creative person, the small person inside you, the little child, your child self is the creative self. And so too in my workshops, I somehow or the other, this I've realized over time, because I've never done workshops thinking that I would teach people to write. You can't really teach people to write. They already know. All they need to do is to find themselves.
So it's like they know it. It's like revealing themselves. It's like a self-revelation.
It's a kind of self-realization, self-revelation that this is what I am. It's a kind of finding your own identity, your own voice. When you find your own voice, then what I actually like is that for the participants is to find their originality.
And that's what your workshops...
That's what's important.
Yeah,
that's
tell them
what's valuable. That one person is different from the other. So what is that person contributing? What can that person bring from his or her life, from his or her creativity that the others are not bringing? So when I do workshops, I actually tailor them according to the needs of each person in a way. Of course, there's a format in my workshops. Like for example, if I'm doing a workshop on writing poetry, so it'll be, we'll speak about rhythm and rhyme, etc., etc. Or if it's about say for example, a short story, then I'll ask them, what do you want to write about? Do you want to write a mystery story? Do you want to write a love story? People love mystery stories.
They love it. So we all love mysteries and
stories or murder story. So they'll talk about, yes, we want to write about a mystery. And where is it set? It's set in the night, somewhere, dark, it's raining, most of the time it's like that. And then there's a murder, there's an old man who comes down the stairs, things like that. It's a lot of fun. And they all participate, everyone puts in their little bit. So there's setting, character creation, dialogues, perspective, visualization. So I do all that. But I do that from a perspective of each person bringing something in the workshop, bringing something of his or her own, which the others don't have.
So instead of you being the director to give them that this is what, this is what your character is, they recognize their own character.
No, they bring out something in the story. Like I work with mind maps.
Yeah.
So I use a mind map. So everyone will have a mind map on there.
Yeah.
In their notebooks or whatever. And then they will put in all the elements. After that, you prioritize the elements, see what you want to put first, what you want to leave out, what is important, what is not important. So, they'll come up with different things. Somebody will say, and then the names also, I give, for example, I create a character. What is the name of this person? Somebody will say Prakash, somebody will say Junjunwala. So they all bring their own. It's very exciting actually. Because then we have to decide on one. We can't have, Ultimately, if they don't agree, then I say, okay, in your story you put Prakash, in your story you put Junjunwala. Because every name also brings an image.
Yeah.
So they have their own images. So that's what they want to do. So maybe it's...
So it's so beautiful that you help them or assist them to find their own creative self.
Their own creative voice, themselves and their, I go through, sometimes it's almost like, it's not obviously not meditation in that sense. So we also do exercises. If we have enough time, I do some limbering up exercises and relaxation exercises so that, they get in touch with themselves and with the other people in the group. And then after that, I sort of make them close their eyes, go back into a time and they remember something of their childhood, something beautiful, some song, so that they sort of think what is valuable to them.
So this is what you do, right? And how you do. I want to know, Mariam, that this is something like after getting connected to themselves, right? What do they experience in that once they create the whole story and the whole workshop? After the workshop, what are the experiences they go through?
They have something to carry home. They feel they've done some work.
Yeah.
And they have something to carry home. So they, with children it's different. With grown-ups it's different. With children, I'll read out one of my, one of the poems that I published in parenting. For many years, they're mostly rhymes and with a lot of, sound effects. So I do that, and then I ask the children to write their own story, a similar story. Mm-hmm. Even if they're in class 6 or 10 or whatever, then they write together. They write their own things. But with adults, it's different because there has to be a consensus on what the story is going to be, because I do more complex things, with them.
Because they're so filled in, already so much filled in by their outlook, what their experience and everything.
Actually, you mean that way that so they change.
How do they transform or change, in that 2 hours a workshop? How long is your workshop?
3 to 5 hours.
3 to 5 hours. After 5 hours, what do they share as their experience with you be? With their getting connected to their creative self.
I find they always, that's the main thing, that I got connected to myself. You helped us to get connected to ourselves.
So sometimes, is it something like they break down into tears also?
No, it's not like that. They get very excited, they laugh, and they participate a lot. And then they feel very, they get very excited most of the time. And then they say that yes, we got connected, and it's also a question of self-esteem. When you come, and if you come to a writing workshop in English, Vibha, you know that it's not a language which you know very well.
Yeah.
But you want to write in English because that's what most people are reading.
Yeah.
And that's what's selling the most,
Mm-hmm.
Although my books in translation, my children's books, sell the most in Hindi, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like Putul and the Dolphins, which is almost like a classic. It's been for 15, 16 years. It's been published by Tulika. It's in the Hindi translation sells the most in the Hindi belt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that relationship with a language that is not your mother tongue is a very difficult relationship.
Yes, it is.
And you have to acknowledge that it is a difficult relationship. I have found people, even writers, I've met some writers who said, oh, English is my mother tongue. English is very close to you, but it's not your mother tongue.
Exactly.
Your mother tongue is a tongue you heard your mother speak to when you were a baby. The rhythms, the sounds inside you are that of that tongue.
Exactly.
Not
it's
English.
So beautiful, because I've been talking to people, and I hold workshops, and when I tell them that for me naturally Hindi comes in, because the language of my home was Hindi.
That's right, yeah.
And it was like a rule in my house. The moment we stepped in, they said the language has to be one where I could talk to my aunts and my grandmother and my mother, So that was the common language we had.
That's right.
So, and that's something, which naturally, it automatically comes so much easier for me to express myself.
You see, if you write in English, you still have to acknowledge, because they're what I try to exploit, and what I think is that the richnesses of your own, the rhythms of your own languages, which will automatically come into the language in which you write. So you might as well acknowledge them and use them.
Yes.
So that is what I encourage the participants to do, is to use the rhythms of their their mother tongue.
So is that so that when you're talking about getting connected to your creative self, and with adults and kids, they get connected to their roots too?
Yes, of course. Yes, that's what I mean.
Because they are working out of that roots, going back to that connection, right? And then feeling those senses, they can, with
Absolutely.
all the...
You just got it.
all the 5 senses and connection with everything. And that's what opens up, right? Oh, right.
That's
so
you got it
interesting.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens to them. And self-esteem,
Yeah.
because then you feel like, okay,
I am.
and I don't know the language in which I'm writing so well.
Yeah. I accept.
But you can write
Yeah.
in an English which may not be exactly correct. You have editors, you have people, if you have a good story to tell and you have a nice rhythmic style,
Yeah.
your language can be edited.
Of course.
You know.
Everything is learned and so is language.
It can be edited by somebody else.
Yes.
But you must write creatively first.
So it's the expression, right? And language can be, edited.
If you make a mistake, it can be edited. There's nothing so great about it.
It's the rhythm you get connected. You help them to get connected to.
But you're afraid of the fact of making mistakes, because all the time in school and all the time in an English-speaking environment, if you make a mistake, it's looked down upon. There's gosh. That's
So I must say here, Mariam, that it's not only what you're teaching in that workshop. What you are doing is, helping them or assisting them to cross over many of their fears, which they themselves don't know, or they have just put it in the carpet, and with your creativity and helping them to be childlike and their creation with visualization, with all the senses alive, they feel secured.
Yes, that's maybe they do that. Yeah, they feel secure. They feel, that
light
grounded,
and happy and grounded.
That yes, I am. This is my language. This is where I belong. These are the songs of my childhood, and in spite of all that, I'm writing in a second language.
Yeah.
Which I'm writing. I'm working with the people who come there, and with children is different because children don't think about these things.
No, they are so empty. They are so beautiful.
They don't think. So I do workshops, I read out from my thing. But even with children, because they're in a classroom, there are certain things which have to be done, like judgment.
Yeah.
The differences between boys and girls. They come out very clearly in the...
Can you share an experience with the kids, what they come out to be, how they share and everything?
Yes, I'd like to do that. In Meerut once, I remember, I was taking a workshop for class 6 or class 6 to 8, something like that. There were a lot of kids, we were outside, and there's one poem which is very funny, which I published in Parenting many years ago, maybe 15-20 years ago. And in that, there's a bird-like creature with a beak, and it's wearing a hat with feathers, and it's a lady. Her name is Miss Laffita Taffita. So it's got the word taffeta in it, and it's Ulara, and she's a fashion designer.
Okay.
So she designs for, I forget, I should have brought it actually. It's, so Miss Laffita Taffita designs clothes for, I don't know, where and Zambia. I forget the whole thing. So it's funny, and there's a funny illustration. And each time that the poem, as it progresses, she drops one letter.
Okay.
Till in the end, nothing is left. So in the end, it is Miss Laffita Taffita, Miss Laffita Taffita T. Now without a name, how can you even be? So because then she's dropped one letter of her name until she doesn't the name doesn't exist. So then I asked the children that now you may write something similar, or if you want to use this character, you use it. So the girls, how they are, especially in a small town and all, they always want to please the teacher. They'll make designs. Ma'am, should I make flowers in the outside? Ma'am, do you like this? Ma'am, should I put a pink color or a blue color? They're so ready to please. Poor girls, little girls. Boys are different. They're rebellious, so they're all sitting in the back, and they're also always scolded by the teachers. Don't make a noise, don't make a noise. See, male children have got a higher metabolic rate than female children. They can't be expected to cross their legs and sit down. They can't sit in one place most of the time, So, but they're always getting... So, these are things, that people pass judgments like this. So then the boys, it was their turn to speak, and they were laughing away. Then they came up to the mic and they said, girls said, Miss Laffita Taffita was very sweet, and she went and she distributed sweets or whatever, nice things that girls always do. The boys went up and they said, my name is Miss Laffita Taffita. I am a murderer. I committed 100 murders.
Oh my God.
So the teachers, what are you saying? Please shut up, be quiet. Don't say these things. then I said, no, let them. This is their sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know, they find it funny. There's nothing so bad about it. They think that this funny bird-like creature is a murderer.
Yeah.
And in a place like Meerut, if I remember correctly, when we went there's always something or the other happening. I remember there was a student leader who was murdered in the university.
Oh, wow.
Then there was a baker in Sadar Bazaar. Somebody came and shot him. So these kids are listening to all this.
Yeah.
So obviously it's on their mind, and if they speak it out, there's no harm.
Yeah.
So
it's
then
a way of,
explain,
bringing it out and bringing
it
out
out
from their
and
system and putting in a different way.
Yeah, and they know what's happening. You are not hiding it from them. When the baker gets murdered, somebody comes and shoots the baker.
Yeah.
You know, the main
So
bakery.
beautiful. So actually the storytelling is they pick up from the society, their conditioning, what they're feeling, and then it's like with all the characters it's being
and if you
portrayed.
sweep it under the carpet,
Yeah.
or you tell them it's bad, it's wrong, you're actually creating a false world, in which you want to tell them, "Nahi, don't speak about it. It's happening all around you," and then you can discuss it with them. Why is it? And it was their sense of humor. The boys have a different sense of humor.
Totally.
You have two boys.
Totally, they have that.
It's not the same as
Not at all.
So these
Not
are
at
some
all.
interesting experiences that
Yeah, so interesting.
And
It's so interesting. On one side, you're talking about the creativity, which has to be out and which has to be felt, and each and every part of the senses have to relish. It has to be relished.
Yes, that's right. You can say that.
Live in and lived. It has to be lived in, the experience. On the other side, your novels, which you have written, the novels. There is a portrayal of a very strong woman or a rebel or a woman who has her own mind and wants to say it aloud. So your book, My Little Boat, it's nominated for the awards also. So it's something very very sensitive issues are there, and how this girl has talks about it or displays her emotions or how she portrays it. So what is that, Mariam?
The thing is that it's a very complex book.
Yeah.
And it is, if I can put it in any tradition, it would be eco-feminist. It's a cinematic suite of images. And there are three voices. There's the author narrator, there's the journal of the protagonist, and there is the letters between father and daughter. And they are non-linear, they can come in at any point in time, and it's for the reader to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult, but you ask me why
I'm asking you because on one side you are with the kids and the youth, bringing out their creativity and their childlike living in the moment to moment. On the other side, this novel has come up, which is quite serious.
It is very serious.
It's very serious and it's very sensitive. Right? So it's sometimes you feel, really? A woman can think this and do this? You understand how she's feeling, what she's writing to the father? So these two extremes from that childlike...
They're not extremes really.
Okay.
They're not extremes because it is a child who, that same child grows up into an adult and still remains the same person actually. Like I said before, that society imposes certain, we are conditioned in a certain way. But I don't think, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, that the original person remains the same.
Yes, वो वृत्ति जिसे हम कहते हैं archetype. The archetype remains, the essence of the person remains the same.
Essence of the person remains the same.
Yeah.
So whether they're children and you are, nurturing them into creativity or this, the protagonist of the novel. Actually, this is about a person who's been displaced from a very free environment into a very small town in UP. Where at this time there's a lot of communal tension.
Yeah.
And so it's also has a political aspect, a strong political aspect. It's basically about human life, how we cope with our lives, how this woman copes with her life, which is very different in spite of the fact that she has nothing but love around her.
Yeah.
But when like it says, I say in the book, that from the womb of a free spirit can never be born a spirit in bondage.
Wow.
So that what is a free spirit? What is a seeker? Like the people in the novel, like there's Nasreen and there's Shamsher, and they're seekers.
Yeah.
They're looking for, somebody's looking for a Sufi realization, and actually it is about seeking because it is dedicated to the prophet Al-Khizr, the green prophet. In fact, in one of the children's books, which is it's called Water Stories from Around the World, the story that I have, my story is called The Green Prophet. It is about Al-Khizr. So Al-Khizr has many tales woven around him, and that is why I say it's eco-feminist, because wherever he walked, flowers and trees would spring in his path. He is the one who was supposed to have accompanied Moses, to have accompanied Alexander, who was looking for the Maul Hayat, the water of life, for a water of eternity, of eternal life, the fountain of eternal life. And Al-Khizr found it,
Are you a seeker, Mariam?
Yes, I think. And everyone should be a seeker. Otherwise, if you don't seek, if you have already found everything, then I think it's the mysteries of life that keep us alive. It's the mysteries that we must find and seek, and something different. Everyone has a different path. Each one of us.
Yeah.
That is my thing. We have to find our own path.
Or sometimes the path finds us.
Maybe.
Or probably we are always on the path and we don't recognize it because of so much happening around. We are on the path and we change it also, but we don't realize it somewhere.
We don't realize that this is the path maybe that was meant for us.
Yeah.
We don't realize that. Very often we think that, why is my life so different from that of others? Why has this happened to me? Very often that happens. But actually this is what is leading you to something. Who knows? I can't say, because I have not come to any conclusions about these things.
Wow, so beautiful.
Have you?
For me, I feel that there may be something as destiny, there may be something as, which is predestined.
And as one gets older, one tends to...
Yet, if 50% is predestined, then every one person gives you a window to change it and create your own. So that window is always offered. It's like that GPS system. It tells you a place and then the shortest, the route, and you still want to, you may want to take your route, and that's a window. It may, reroute it and say, okay, reroute yourself.
Like a video game.
It's like a video game. So with that 50% of predestiny, 50%, each 1% gives you an opening to create 1% of choice.
Take another. So to get into the warp zone.
Yes. So I feel sometimes that a known world is, much more difficult than going to an unknown one.
That's very interesting.
And moving towards which is, let's see what it offers. Because the known world is with the conditioned mind, preconditioned.
But most people like to remain on the known
That's
path.
okay. Because you asked me question. This is what I feel.
Yes. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's easier you feel to take the unknown. The unknown.
It's easier to be, it's easier with whatever trust in yourself that you can still go because you don't know.
You don't know what's going to happen in front.
Right, as it comes.
That's exactly what I've written in one of the sentences in My Little Boat. That you never know, when you take a step, you never know which colors will spill and unfold before you. My Little Boat is actually means, if you translate the book, it may have been written in any Indian language. Because My Little Boat means, what is the image of a boat in India? What is it? जो तारिणी होती है,
जो यहाँ से वहाँ लेके तर के लेके जा रही है।
हाँ, जो तारिणी मेरे जीवन की नैया होती है ना, नैया नौका डूबी मेरी नैया में क्या है, और जो जैसे जो पार ले जाती है, जैसे कि
जो माझी लेके जा रहा है वो उस पार लेके जा रहा है।
उस पार तो इसकी बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग और इम्पोर्टेंट इमेज है हिंदुस्तान में, स्पेशली इन द लैंड ऑफ द रिवर्स, बंगाल. Isn't it?
Yeah, so beautiful.
कहे कबीरा बारंबारी मोहे भवसागर तार मुरारी. So it is the idea of getting across.
Yeah.
And the boat is what takes you across. It is the tarini.
Yeah.
And even in I have this thing. I think I've written in Paral. What is it? नानक नाम जहाज है. मतलब आपको वो पार ले जाएगा. तो इस दुनिया के भवसागर को पार करने के लिए हमें जो वो नैया है उसमें हर चीज़ होती है, उसमें पॉलिटिक्स भी होता है, उसमें मोहब्बत भी होती है, उसमें दुख भी होते हैं, सुख भी होते हैं, हर चीज़ होती है. और तो इसलिए उसका नाम है माई लिटिल बोट. It sounds like a children's book, but it has a it's an Indian image, or at least South Asian image, which is there. That's why I called it that, although it doesn't sound very, literary or anything, but it has a very deep meaning.
So are you a believer?
In God?
In that one?
I think so. Yeah. I feel a connection with something which is, bigger than me, because then how is it possible not to? I mean, one would be foolish to. I mean, it's not necessary that.
Or courageous or foolish. Only two people don't believe in God. Yeah.
But not God, but something is bigger than us. Obviously, I mean, how can we think that we are at the top of all understanding? It's not possible. But whether we can connect directly, or whether we have to go via some other people, or I don't know. I have no answers, and if I did give answers, I would be foolish. I would be unwise to think that I could give answers to such huge questions, which are all there in my book also. These are immense questions. What is life? What is death? They're all there in the book. Yeah. What is man, woman, relationships? The difference between animals and human beings. These are all questions which will remain unanswered. I mean, there may be a lot of literature on them, but the ultimate answers are not there.
When you're holding these workshops, Mariam, what is it that you want your participants to take away?
They will take away, they always take away something which they have created in that time. Wow. So that is what I would like them to do. Whether they've written a poem or a story, or even created a work of art, because they're free to do that in my workshops. Like the children especially, they always paint something. I tell them bring, all the schools or whatever I used to do. Now I do very few workshops for children for the past few years. But I tell them to bring paper and colors, so they'll take away that, whatever they have created. And in the children's workshops, the interesting thing is that, I find that although there's so much of literature on it, and in India we have, they don't personalize nature, because most of my stories and all are about nature, about preserving nature. The books are about animals, endangered animals.
You must be fond of cartoons then, because I love cartoons. Whether it is Lion King or Tom and Jerry or Ants or any of those films. I love those.
Sketches.
I love those because they tell a lot. They, through them you learn a lot. Whether it's a colony of ants, how they create it, how they are working together, working hard. It's such a beautiful, the way they create that balance in the nature.
Yes.
Yeah. And in that childlike innocence, whatever, even if it's Madagascar, I love those animals.
I write also about animals, or about endangered animals, or the fact that, there's one, the animals have gone away. Yeah. And the trees will soon be following, things like that, to sensitize people about the environment and children about the environment, and to create love in, I remember some workshops in which I've spoken, about a tree, and then they learn to personalize, so they make a tree with eyes and with the smile, and
so they personalize it, and they feel it.
They become connected.
I think these things make you sensitive also towards the different elements of nature.
That they are living beings, Trees and animals are living beings. They are, they are just, they have another world, but they are to be valued in that world, because we've destroyed 80% of wildlife and animals. And
you have a tinge of Sufiana, Sufiana thought processes and thought. Where is it coming from, Mariam?
I don't know, maybe from my Sufi ancestors. Yes, I do have. I had Sufi ancestors on both sides of my father's family, but I can't say that I had a direct connection with them.
But then there is something, while I'm talking to you, there's so much of peace.
Is it?
It's so much of, a want to share kind of thing.
Yes.
As if it's offering.
And
gratitude. And this is what I'm feeling while I'm talking to you. It's with gratitude, with humility, and it's like peace, offering peace and love. So
that's what I would like to do. I don't know whether I'm able to do it, but that's what I want to do, is to, it's that there should be peace and love in the world.
And what is the message you want to give it to all our viewers? Because so many years of, doing workshop with kids and otherwise also, and traveling all over and writing so many books, plays and musical. And so what is the message you want to give, the spiritual message, and for them, what they should, take it away from you? I mean, what is it you would like to tell them?
Well, I think that to find true happiness, or happiness within yourself, if you're in touch with your creative self and you appreciate the world around you, and you use your 5 senses to appreciate the world around you, whatever it is like, whatever it goes, you create your own world in a sense by choosing the elements that are there in the world, that this is what you want to focus on. And so if you're in touch with your creative self and the world around you, there's a kind of happiness that you can find wherever you are. A joy and happiness in being alive and in being on this earth. Life is a gift.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mariam. It's so nice to talk to you. And
very nice. So nice of you to have invited me, and so nice of you to talk to me.
And all the best for your workshops, and wishing that you have many more workshops like this where you are getting connected to each participant on your soul level, on their soul level, and help them to grow and get connected and get rooted. Yeah.
Yes.
And many more books.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you, Vibha. So kind of you, really. Very nice of you.
Thank you.